watching, welcome to the session. This is going to be Cognism and Bombora and using intent data to maximize your marketing impact. My name is Jamie Skeels. I'm Senior Demand Generation Manager here at Cognism, and today I'm delighted to be joined by McKenzie. McKenzie, if you want to give a quick intro to yourself.
Everyone. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is McKenzie Jerman, and I am the Senior Director of Partnerships at Bombora.
Brilliant. So today, just touching on sort of what we're going to be covering in the session and in the presentation. So there's a few key agenda points we're going to be going over. First of all, what is Bombora Intent data, especially in particular to marketers, Bombora Intent within Cognism, and also marketing use cases and tactical tips and best practices for marketers. Delighted to be joined by McKenzie. I'm going to hand her over to her now to start talking through some of Bombora's features and how marketers can use intent data.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jamie. So first and foremost, what is Bombora Intent? So Bombora Intent, or Bombora Company Surge, that's just the name that we have coined for our intent product, tells you which businesses are actively increasing their research behavior on the products and services that you sell. So we partnered with Cognism to deliver a very powerful tool that combines both Cognism's data, so contact data, firmographic data, etc., with Bombora's Company Surge Intent. So not only do you know when a company is in market for your products and services, but then you're able to get the contact level data and firmographic data for those companies so you can activate them from a marketing standpoint. So the way that Bombora gets its data is through a proprietary Bombora data cooperative, and it's made up of a variety of publishers and brands. Think large publishers that are more well-known, like the Wall Street Journal, all the way down to very niche publishers like law.com, where you would only be visiting if you were performing very specific B2B research. Every member of our Bombora cooperative is strictly B2B, so we don't capture any B2C research because while it may be fun to know, I am interested in going to Mexico later this year, it's not really going to help you sell anything from a B2B perspective. So we want to keep all of our traffic B2B and avoid those B2C research that's going on online. About 80% of Bombora's intent data is exclusive to Bombora. So we have contracts with all of our publishers that make up the data cooperative. So it's something that only Bombora is able to gain access to. And we are listening to millions of devices across the web to understand when that research is occurring, where it's occurring. And the way that we actually visualize that is through Bombora topics, which I'll go through here in a moment. So what makes Bombora Company Surge different? Again, Bombora Company Surge is just what we call our intent data. So we set a 12-week baseline of normal research behavior for all domains across the web that we are able to produce data on. So we know that Bombora.com obviously is going to be consuming information around intent data at a pretty high clip because it's what we sell. So we won't expose when there's just a interaction with the word intent data. We will wait until it is a minimum of 20% above normal research behavior for that company to expose it and say they are actually showing increased research behavior on this topic that you care about that's related to what you sell. So to dive a little bit into the Bombora and Cognism partnership, as I mentioned, we have over 15,000 topics in the Bombora taxonomy, and those topics are how we actually visualize to the end user what the intent is that they are looking for that is related to their products and services. And that will become more clear once we dive into the demo environment as well in Cognism. But all Cognism Diamond customers receive 12 Bombora topics with their package. And then, of course, always the ability to purchase the use of additional topics. So at Bombora, obviously, we sell intent data. So some topics that relate to us would be company surge, Bombora, intent data, third-party data. And when we would see those topics showing increased intent across our ICP or our target account list, that's how we know, and that's how Bombora visualizes that there is that true increase in research behavior. And as I mentioned, it takes a minimum of 20% above that 12-week normal baseline in order for us to actually expose a domain as having intent on whichever topics you are monitoring or listening to. So as Jamie mentioned, the purpose of this is to understand how you can use intent within Cognism specifically for marketing use cases. So these are the 6 use cases that we're going to walk through today and talk a little bit through more tactically how you can actually put the intent data into action in the Cognism platform. So as you can see here, we are going to go through targeted intelligent audiences. So the building out of that within the Cognism platform, nurturing accounts before your competitors, content personalization, maximizing your ad budget, uncovering existing demand in the market, and last but not least, key account intelligence. So to dive a little bit deeper into our first use case, which is targeted intelligent audiences, the way that Bombora and Cognism play well together is in the platform, of course, the marriage of our 2 data sets, right? So just because you can market to a set of companies because they fit in your ICP, they're the right geography, size, industry, they have, the personas you sell into, etc. It doesn't mean you should, right? So a study by Forrester a few years back said that only about 25% of your market is actually in market at one time. So just because you can sell to them doesn't mean you should, right? Or market to them. So leveraging the Bombora intent topics in Cognism is a great way to understand how to build an audience that's actually interested in what you are producing, right? So whether that's an email drip campaign, a LinkedIn advertising campaign, or display ads, whatever that looks like, you're only going to be targeting those audiences that are actually showing research on what the campaign or email campaign is about. So you aren't just kind of spraying and praying across your entire market. You're actually making data-driven decisions around where you want to start and what audience to go after. So the second use case here is maximizing ad budget. So as I mentioned, you can use Bombora intent data inside of the Cognism platform to create that audience, that's very targeted and intelligent. So naturally, you are going to be able to make that budget go a little bit further. So a lot of ads are very pricey. As we know, LinkedIn in particular can get pricey. And if you aren't putting ads in front of the right people, then you're wasting or potentially wasting some of that ad budget, which no one wants to do, especially with tight budgets the last couple of years for marketing. So with Bombora Intent alongside Cognism, you are able to target those audiences that, again, are actually in market, are actively researching what you sell, so that you can serve those ads to the right people. And not only that, but at the right time. So Bombora Intent does refresh on a weekly basis in the Cognism platform. So week over week, you're able to see, okay, I had maybe 100 interested companies last week that I was serving this ad to. This week, that's 98 or 105, whatever that looks like. But either way, I know my ad is getting in front of people who have actually performed the research and are potentially in market to make a purchase or a buying decision. The third use case is nurture your accounts before your competitors. So a great aspect of Bombora is because we set that 12-week baseline of normal research behavior, and then it takes that 20% above minimum for us to say a domain is showing intent, is it's not just a keyword interaction online. So, some of your competitors may use keyword interactions as how they want to serve ads. Nothing wrong with that. But with Bombora, because we train our AI to understand the actual context around what's happening on the web, you're able to get those earlier signals. So that way you can put domains and those accounts into your nurture campaigns before your competitors. So especially if you're looking at more top of funnel, where it's truly just people searching for pain points, then you can get out in front of them before the competition. So our next use case is uncovering demand that exists in the market. So a very large use case is identifying net new accounts, right? You have a group of accounts inside of your CRM, but there are, of course, other accounts out in the world that fit your ICP that you could, in theory, sell to, market to, nurture. So with Bombora, as I mentioned, you're going to go ahead and, like I said, we'll get into the demo environment here in a little bit. But when you put in your topics to understand what accounts are showing intent across the web on the topics related to your products and services, you then can identify, okay, I had these 25 accounts already in my CRM, but these other 50 are also showing intent. Thanks to Cognism, I know they fit into my ICP very well. I can get their contact information, and then I can start going after those brand new accounts that I was not marketing to beforehand. So great use case there. A lot of companies are very interested in finding those net new accounts, and so Bombora and Cognism can definitely support that very well. So our second to last use case here is content personalization. So as I mentioned, when you are creating those audiences and you are utilizing your intent topics to know, okay, these accounts are in fact interested in what I sell, most companies don't just serve one type of ad to everyone, right? You have top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel. You may have multiple product lines. You may have different ads that you serve to different verticals that you sell into, market into. So Bombora Intent helps a lot with that. When you look at these topics and you see a common theme between the topics that are showing intent, it helps you to better serve ads, to put people into email nurture campaigns, drip campaigns around what they're actively showing intent on. So I may have, option A, B, and C, but these groupings of accounts are showing primarily intent on A. So I know that B and C likely will not have as much of an impact on that group. So I want to utilize, track A for this group, and then I can build another track for B and C. So I know that my whatever marketing material or marketing activity that's taking place is going to accounts that are actually in market for that specific type of offering or that product line out of my 3 or what have you. And again, as I mentioned, since it does refresh on a weekly basis, our intent data within Cognism, you know that things are staying very relevant and that your audiences are not stale or stagnant. So last but not least here, key account intelligence. So if you are a marketer that has a set list of accounts that you're going after, for round numbers, let's say you have 100 domains that you can go after this quarter or this year, but you don't really know where to start, Bombora is a great place for that. So utilizing Cognism to actually upload a list of companies or the search function to find your list of key accounts, layering in the Bombora intent data there to understand which accounts are actually in market now, so you can prioritize those for nurture or whatever marketing activity you're looking to take, invite to a webinar, event planning, whatever that looks like, and not focus quite as heavily on the key accounts that are not actively researching right now. And as I mentioned, because Bombora does refresh on a weekly basis, that will naturally ebb and flow, right? So out of my 100 accounts, let's say 25 of them are showing intent on what I sell. In a month, it may be a different 25. So then I want to kind of pivot my activity, whatever, I'm doing. If I have an upcoming event that I'm going to, I want to invite, those 25, see if they'll also be at the event and try and, book meetings for my sales team or whatever that looks like from a marketing perspective for you. But it takes kind of the guesswork out of the possibilities, right? So I'm not just spending money on all 100 at once, but I'm making educated, data-driven decisions behind who I'm going after first. And that brings us to the end of the 6 use cases here for marketers. So with that, we can go ahead and jump into the Cognism platform and go through some tactical ways to actually action the Bombora intent data alongside Cognism to activate these use cases. And Jamie, anything you would add in there or anything you want to provide additional color on? I realized I did not pause to let you speak at all.
Fantastic job, McKenzie. I think it's actually really interesting, particularly from the lens of a marketer. I think for sales particularly, like we tend to see a lot of salespeople using intent data as part of their daily workflows. But I think still there's a great number of marketers who haven't uncovered what you can do with intent data and how they can fit it into their daily workflows. So I think even just getting that sort of general outlook on those 6 use cases, you can start to see the possibilities. We've definitely experimented with Cognism. We've used Bombora Intent data along with different types of intent data as well, to experiment with ad campaigns and sort of reaching those in-market audiences, like you said. For us, we've seen our own results. I have to get the actual numbers, but we've seen engagement rates and click-through rates significantly increase when we've used Bombora Intent data, and that's because it's reaching the right audience, and we're serving personalized content to those audiences. So yeah, very, very interesting. I think it's useful for marketers to go through those use cases.
Yeah, absolutely. And happy to hear internal success as well. That's awesome. Fabulous. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with the Cognism instance here. So obviously I'm logged into the platform. So the first place that I'm going to start here is on the intent tab. So I have preloaded some topics that relate to Bombora, of course, our own brand name, what we sell, and then some general pain points that our customers or prospects typically research. So some general best practices around selecting intent topics. As I mentioned, diamond customers with Cognism do get 12 topics included with their package. And then you do always have the option to purchase additional topics if you feel, you've seen the success, you have multiple product lines and 12 just won't cut it as far as coverage goes. Or, you just want more because you want to kind of cast a wider net. All great use cases for leveraging beyond the 12. But when you think about your own personal research journey, typically, let's say you're buying a car, right? You aren't going to start with the exact brand name, the exact color, the interior package, etc., that you are going to purchase. You usually start with more general pain points, right? So things like family-friendly car or highly rated safety car or car small enough to fit into a tiny parallel parking space in the city or whatever that looks like for you. So when you pick your Bombora topics, you want to keep that in mind that depending on who you're looking to go after, the general pain points or kind of general need topics are going to be very important, especially top of funnel. Typically in a research journey, you don't see brand names come into play until middle, bottom of funnel. Again, just like the car example I gave, I'm not going out and saying, okay, I definitely want an Audi, Mercedes, Jeep, Ford, whatever. I'm looking for kind of general features. And then by the time I get all the way down to the brands, I usually have 1 or 2 options left that I'm willing to actually seriously consider, go test drive, and then make a purchase. So with that, I have some general topics in here like sales acceleration, sales intelligence, and then of course you can see some branded terms like Cognism, Bombora, and Company Surge. So after you have selected your topics, for this use case, I definitely recommend keeping this selector on OR. The reason being, you want to kind of cast a wider net for marketing, right? You're usually not probably marketing to people that are super, super, super down funnel that are, ready to sign tomorrow, unless it's a very niche or kind of late in the game marketing play. So with the OR, it will give me companies that are showing intent on any of these topics in any combination. And you can see how many topics are showing intent here on the right-hand side under topic count. The way that our scoring works is 60 to 100 just means that they're showing increased intent. So that's that minimum of 20% above normal research behavior to get to a 60. So I don't recommend touching this. Leaving it 60 to 100, is perfect. And then as far as the trends go, as I mentioned, every single week Bombora data is refreshed inside of the Cognism platform. So new would be brand new topics that come into play. And then of course, increasing, decreasing, no change. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Again, I wouldn't necessarily touch these unless you have already run, maybe it's an evergreen campaign and you've already run it many times. And so you truly are just looking for brand new kind of intent that's coming into play. But other than that, leaving it 16 to 100 and not touching the trends and just having your 10, 12 topics plus in there is perfect. I will pause there for a sec. Jamie, anything you would add here on the intent piece before I jump into the next tab? Oh, you're on mute if you're talking.
Sorry, McKenzie. I'm back. Yeah, apologies. Nothing major to add. The main thing I would sort of add to this piece is just from sort of using Bombora Intent data here at Cognism internally. Where I found this most useful, particularly in recent months, is like for our ABM campaigns and for more vertical focus campaigns as well. When we're trying to uncover the right sort of accounts to go after, this has been incredibly helpful for prioritization. So we tend not to use this intent data just in isolation as well. This forms part of a wider piece for us, but this has been critical for us as part of that prioritization piece. We look at this in conjunction with other data sources as well to just get as complete a picture as possible as like to who should we go after, who should we prioritize. And I find that this is a really elegant way of sort of actually facilitating that. So it's definitely been really valuable from us internally.
That's awesome. And we do get a lot of questions at Bombora of how many topics is like the perfect combination, or how do I know kind of where to start? So like I said, with the Diamond package, you have 12 topics. I would highly recommend using all 12 as frequently as you can, unless, like I said, it's a very, very, niche one-off use case, in which case your CSM account manager, or if your prospect AE can always help with that use case as well. But common practice at Bombora is the number of topics showing intent is going to be your strongest indicator. So we usually do not recommend going after accounts that are only showing intent on one topic. The reason being, B2B buying decisions usually have like 8 to 20 sort of stakeholders or internal, buy-in that's needed from 8 different people to about 20 different people. So if it's just one topic, it could be a very, very, very early on buying decision. So if you wanted to put them in a very early, top of funnel nurture, that would be okay. But we recommend kind of 2+, and it kind of kicks out some of the very, very, very early on research behavior that's occurring, where you may just want them to get to, those 2-3 topics before you actually put marketing effort and energy and money behind them. Wonderful. So I am going to go ahead and hop into lists here. So you can use the Bombora Intent, like I mentioned, to create a list, and I'm going to call this test. Then I'll go ahead and come in here. So you can go ahead and add in to a list company names, like I mentioned. So if you have like a key account list, for example, and you wanted to actually go ahead and search by their company names, you can do that. You can search by contacts if you know specifically, I am going to be only going after CMOs for this campaign or this, email activation, whatever you're looking to complete. And so you actually have that very granular information. But again, this is only one of the ways that you are able to go ahead and create an audience. So the list function, you can leverage Bombora, and then also with the prospector function. So what I typically do is if I am creating a brand new sort of audience in Cognism or a brand new list to go after, is I usually start with company. Something I did not mention within the slides, but Bombora Intent is GDPR compliant, and it is only company level. So what I mean by that is whether you are going after a sales persona, a marketing persona, an ops persona, HR, whatever group you sell into, we are going to provide you intent on the company level, not the personal level. Reason being, global law, privacy compliance, things like that. So whether you are going after myself at Bombora, our CEO at Bombora, you're going to see the same intent across the entire company. So for me personally, it's easiest to start with the companies and go from there. So as I mentioned, you would want to go ahead and put in your ICP information here under general information. If you wanted to add in office location, industry, technology, whatever that looks like. And this is all data provided by Cognism. So they have wonderful firmographic information, technographic information. So however you slice and dice who you're able to sell to, Cognism is very useful in their data set in helping you actually achieve that. And then as you can see here under the intent filter, those 10 topics that I had selected under this tab preserved. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time, so to speak. You can just go ahead and come over to Prospector, and then your topics will preserve here. So something that I would also recommend is, like I said, the trends and the scores. The score, if it's above 60, it means it's showing intent. So you don't have to get super bogged down into the scores here. A lot of people think, okay, they're like United Health Group, for example, has an 89 and it's showing intent on 2 topics. That has to be way better than an 85 on 4 topics. But if you remember what I said on the intent tab, the number of topics showing intent is going to be your strongest indicator. So you would actually want to prioritize by the number of topics showing intent for a business versus the score or the trend. And I will pause there again for just one moment, Jamie, if there's anything you want to add in. And if not, I can keep on keeping on.
No worries. Yeah, there is actually one thing I'd like to add in. Just, you actually covered it briefly, but it's just something that I think is particularly useful in terms of combining Bombora with Cognism. Particularly if you're running ABM or more targeted campaigns, once you get those accounts showing intent from Bombora within Cognism, I think blending that with the technographic data we've got available can be really, really powerful. We've used it ourselves on LinkedIn and in other campaigns we've ran, particularly for us, if we can find accounts that are showing intent and also have a CRM that we integrate with, for example, Salesforce, HubSpot, Pipedrive, Dynamics. Basically with those campaigns, the targeting is 80% of the work. If you get the targeting right with those really, really focused campaigns, a lot of what you can do creatively, like, you don't have to work as hard. And I think just being able to layer those data sources on top of each other, basically just make sure you get in front of the right people, and it can definitely help improve your results, both in terms of engagement and click-through rate, but also down the funnel in terms of leads and opportunities. But yeah, just wanted to reiterate the point, really. I think blending technographics in particular alongside your regular sort of firmographic information with intent data can be really, really valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's a great call out. We tend to also see success with people who have a CRM, and then also those who leverage our partners, right? So of course, Cognism is a Bombora partner. So if we can see that someone has Cognism and they have a CRM and they're researching intent, that's, a sweet spot, right? So when we go into, for example, like a co-selling motion or an earlier on campaign, like if we were to promote this webinar from my marketing team and we can see there's, that early research that's occurring and maybe they have Cognism or they're showing intent on Cognism and intent, it would definitely be a group that my marketing team, I'm sure, would be very excited to market this exact session to. So can be super useful. Great call out. The other thing too, I did not mention on the intent tab here, but if you just click on this box, all 15,000 of the topics will show up. So the way that you go ahead and narrow it down is basically you just start typing, and then the list, of course, that contains those characters will pop up for you. So the best kind of, I would say, way to dive into selecting your initial topics are to put in the beginning of some of the keywords you maybe use for, like SEO search or what have you, and see what topics we have that align to those. The way that Bombora topics are a little bit different than a keyword is think about them more as categorical. And what I mean by that is because we train our AI with natural language processing to understand actual context that's occurring across the web with the research, the exact word doesn't have to be mentioned specifically on the page for us to pick up on that research. So a corny but good example to kind of wrap your head around it is if you were consuming a article on chocolate chip cookies and it had butter, flour, eggs, chocolate chips, brown sugar, the oven bake time and temperature, even if it didn't specifically call out the word chocolate chip cookie, our AI would still be able to infer that you're actively researching a chocolate chip cookie recipe. Wonderful. So as you can see here, the CRM connection, this is our instance and we use Salesforce. So that's why you see Salesforce there. But once you go ahead and get your company list down, I didn't add in many filters, hence why there's 14,000. But of course, you could add in a bunch of different things to narrow this down quite significantly, excuse me. Then you can go ahead and hop into the contact level over here. And like I said, I typically start with company. That does not mean that you have to. So if you know, okay, I want to target these types of companies and I know the job title and seniority that I want to go after, I know the locations, et cetera, then you can go ahead and jump right into the contact tab and start from there. And again, your intent topics are going to carry over. So no need to reselect each time, which is awesome, very useful. And you can always change out your intent topics as well. So if you were, let's say, finding contacts and you wanted, to cast a wider net or make it a little bit more niche, you can always change up some of these intent topics and see what different results were being produced. And then not to beat the drum too much further here, but as I mentioned, intent always strongest indicator is going to be number of topics. So as Jamie mentioned, definitely finding your audience or that sweet spot for your marketing activity is by and large probably the hardest part, So being able to layer on all of this and then go ahead and actually find the contact information for the people that you want to go after is immensely useful. And then of course you can leverage the contact level information in a variety of different places, whether that's sending it directly to your CRM and then utilizing a marketing automation platform to send out, email campaigns to then push it elsewhere for display ads or to LinkedIn is a great use case. And like I said, this will refresh on a weekly basis. So not only are you getting that targeted intelligence audience, my gosh, I've been talking for a while. Targeted, intelligent audience, but you're also, like I mentioned, making your marketing budget go quite a bit further, right? Because you are having very dynamic, very timely conversations with these folks on the receiving end of your marketing communication. And I'll pause one more time there. Jamie, anything else that you would add in as far as kind of creating or finding the best contacts for your marketing activities using our combined data set?
Yeah, I think the key thing really is it does depend on your strategy and what you're sort of what you're trying to achieve. But again, I think I would just link back into particularly if you're running sort of tighter targeted campaigns and more account focused campaigns. That's where I really see the power of this internally, just talking from my experience. Is you can really get niche and you can really discover the right sort of contacts we're going after. And obviously with the filters that we have available in Cognism, you can whittle down to exact ICP and then blend that with sort of buying indicators like technographics or even things like hiring data. So for example, like we could like blend that with, are they hiring SDRs? So like accounts showing intent for certain topics, are they hiring SDRs? That might be a purchase indicator for your team, for your company, for your business. And there's other signals within Cognism you can blend as well. So I think that's really the power of it, is just being able to blend that intent score from Bombora with the contact level data that we have. And then that gives you a list for those really tight targeted campaigns that's much more reliable, and you're not going to be wasting your time sort of blasting out to a multitude of contacts that are probably never going to buy.
Absolutely. And then I mentioned the net new functionality. So not only net new companies, but net new contacts, right? So you can see on this example, we have Charlotte Copeman in our CRM, right? It already exists, but then we have a slew of others that do not exist, right? So if I am a marketer and I need, I don't know, for round numbers, 1,000 contacts to put into my campaign, okay, I know I have some of them in my CRM, but I have a ton that I don't. So let's go ahead and get those imported so that way I can actually create a campaign and go ahead and action on them. So it makes it very, very seamless to leverage our data sets alongside each other to not only go after, contacts that maybe you have tried to go after in the past, it just wasn't the right time for them. And then as well as those brand new contacts that you can start to engage with your marketing activities as well. Wonderful. I think that is everything that I have for you all today. I really appreciate the time. I hope everyone is able to either hop in the Cognism platform for a current customer or hop on with someone at Cognism so they can dive a little bit deeper into this with you. And the last thing I will say is don't be afraid to kind of play around with the intent and with the various filters. So right now I'm using 10, right? I should in theory probably be using all 12 because there's definitely more coverage for me out there. So when I put in the 12, what does my list look like? If I take it down to only accounts that are showing intent on more than 4 intent topics, what does that look like for me? And kind of making sure I am creating that best audience for whatever I'm looking to do. So it's a kind of a trial and error process when you're initially building the list. At least it was for me. And but from there, as Jamie mentioned, once you get that audience correct, things go a lot more smoothly, and you're able to stretch not only your ad budget a lot further, but your marketing activities in general. So thanks so much, everyone.
That's great. Thank you, McKenzie. I really appreciate your time today. I think our audience will get a lot of benefit out of what they heard today, particularly our marketing audience can start to understand a little bit better how they can actually use intent data and like sort of uncovering some of maybe question marks they had around it in the past. So I think it's been incredibly useful, and I really appreciate your time today. And for anyone watching, if you have any questions or any lingering doubts, please do feel free to reach out to us. But in the meantime, thanks very much for watching.